We're live.
Okay, great, folks. We are live here on Quantum Leap, and Cory and I are excited to have a special guest, James Jordan, who's actually a marketer, but he also really combines coaching and a number of other things with marketing. So he does some pretty interesting things. We're going to get to James in just a minute or so. I just want to do a quick check-in with Cory. Cory, do you mind just telling us how you are and what you're kind of working on this week and what um, quick check in here.
Hey everyone, Cory and I am a business coach, visionary business coach with Take Wing Coaching, as it says right there in my background. See, I never get this right. It's like this mirrored thing, right? So I see it there. But anyway, no, actually this week I'm working on wrapping up a mindset workshop I'll be doing on April 20th. It's going to be in the late afternoon, early evening, about an hour and a half. And it's utilizing some techniques that probably won't see in any other mindset workshops and would support other mindset workshops. So I'm really excited to have something new and different and yet works well with everything else.
Great. And Cory and I do have an upcoming event called Image Maker on May 18th with a couple other folks speaking. Cory's going to be leading off that event. We also have Katarina Rando and Pradna Leitner and Erica Gimbel as well. So we're going to tell you more about that event. Next week on Quantum Leap, we're actually going to talk about customer retention management with a system that Gail and Cory have developed. And so we're going to dig in on that before we talk to Jake Ralston about business practices related to hypnotherapy and NLP. And I've actually am launching a new podcast later today called Community Impact that's really targeted at the community and nonprofits. And we're going to have a video producer on, Stu Suito, who's been a guest here. So, and launching another podcast as well. So we'll talk more about that. And, I want to thank Cory for continuing to be my wingman on our podcasting journey. And we've had a lot of good times, and we're looking to do a lot more big things as well. And James is also a podcaster and a video, online course pro. So I'm going to turn it over to James. Sorry to have you sit there for so long without being able to give an introduction, but how are you, James? We're grateful to have you. And if you don't mind telling us a little bit about your story.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me. This is exciting. So my name is James Jordan. I run James Jordan Marketing based out of Oakland, California. And I help small businesses who have a big commitment to their community grow their business. And one of my focuses is I help coaches with their marketing. A lot of my clients are coaches who are starting a practice and they need help with marketing and with their message. And I end up coaching a lot of them as a marketing coach, which kind of leads to what I'm doing with my courses, my online courses as well.
Okay, great. And yeah, that's what I was getting at about how great of a kind of coach you are. I realized I had a client the other day who I was helping out with some video stuff, but what he really needs is a full-on marketing program. And I was saying, well, this is something that James needs to get involved with. And, I've seen you work with, for example, TNT Fitness, doing some great things for them. And I know as coaches, it really takes a great collaborator to get your message out there. I know Cory's a business coach. He has the benefit of having Gail, who's a great marketer too. So they work as a great team and collaboration. But Cory, do you know James from BNI at all, or have you guys ever worked on any projects? Oh, you're muted, Cory.
We were in the same BNI chapter for a few years.
Oh, okay.
But back then I was focused on the referral marketing, coaching and consulting. So that has changed since I left there.
Yeah. Now you're located in Oakland. Is that right, James?
Yes.
Okay. And he has a number of some different sites. I will put the link to our former kind of Power Partner series where I interviewed James about specifically online courses, which we're going to touch on today. But he has a membership club that he's building for coaches marketing. So this is specifically for business coaches and their marketing. And he also, has a online course website that he's been working on as well. And I'll put those links together. And I just wanted to check in with you, James, about how you see marketing in this COVID-19 environment and kind of how you've adapted to it and what you see that folks should know about marketing in this COVID-19 environment and as we come out of it, so to speak.
Sure. That's a great question. And I always tell my clients that your message that you're sending to the world is the most important part of your marketing. In fact, when you have a message that resonates, you'll be excited to share that message whenever and wherever appropriate. And the marketing aspect of it, people come and say, well, I want to do this. I want a website. I want to go out here and I want to buy a billboard. But when your message is right on point, all those things start to flow naturally. And so being in COVID and people worry about getting their word out and people not knowing who they are, I really focus on helping my clients discover their visionary message, because once they do that, everything starts to flow. And it's not such an effort as you would think it would be.
Great. And I see that from working with Cory about, as a business coach of mine who's helped me a lot, that you really can't do this stuff all by yourself, that you need a collaborator who can help frame, the things that you should do. And, there's like the business aspect of that, but then there's the coaching or the marketing aspect too. And then there's like a certain synergy between those two. So I was just curious, kind of a little bit about your process of how you work with clients. Say you're a new client who really says, well, comes to the realization, maybe me or somebody like Cory, tells them, well, what you need is actually a marketing plan or a strategy. Where do you start with somebody like that?
Yeah, so we'll do an intake conversation, which is free, just getting to know each other. And then based upon where they are in their marketing journey, we may start with some coaching or with a strategy plan. And the focus of the strategy plan is first, as I mentioned before, to discover their message. And then we build on that to distribute to whether it's their website, upgrade their website, do their business cards, their email signature, if they want to do Facebook ads, we can do all of that. But we really sit down first and start with the process.
Great. And I'm going to turn it over to Cory. I just wanted to ask Cory if you have any thoughts on, your challenges or what you've learned about how to market yourself as a coach out there, especially in this COVID-19 environment.
Well, that's a really good question. I've been meeting with a lot of other coaches from around the country and now even around the world. And of course, my former company is worldwide and we still have, contact with those people. And I would say it's an interesting industry. There's been talk about like, how is it that you reach people as, a coach? And I think one of the great things about being, in James's position with marketing is pretty much everybody kind of gravitates to marketing. They know they need it, and they can spend a lot of time doing things. I think for more traditional business coaches, we sometimes have to overcome this sort of like I can do everything myself attitude, and this fear of being seen as incompetent if you hire somebody to help you with coaching, which can be a problem for a lot of people, feel like they should be able to do everything on their own. But most people are experts in their business. They're not experts in what they do, but not necessarily in business. And that's what a business coach brings to it. And similarly, a marketing coach does that. A lot of people also know they need a sales coach, though that can be a little daunting. So it's an interesting thing out there, where we reach people and how we market ourselves. Gail is the one who handles most of the marketing for our company. and she's much more, I'd say, competent at that than I am. The referral marketing is my side of things. And for that, it's building a good referral network.
Yeah, you're really a master at that referral marketing, and I know we've talked about that on a few occasions. I know, James, you actually have a lot of experience with referral marketing too. You guys actually being in the same chapter for a while. So, well, good. Well, I was going to turn it over to you, Cory, if you have some questions for James or to.
All right. So yeah. So speaking of all these different coaches out there and everything else, James, what would make you unique as a marketing coach? What's your maybe your niche and who you like to work with? You did mention that you like to work with other coaches, but that can be a pretty broad category as well. So
yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I've worked with a lot of health professionals, whether they be nutritional coaches or homeopaths or chiropractors. And it's really interesting to me that a lot of what these professionals do, maybe 50% of or more of it is actually coaching, right? Like, so for example, a homeopath, or even for that matter, your family doctor, they prescribe things and do certain things, but a lot of what they do is they coach you to better health. And so I really see a lot of my clients that work, whether it's in the health profession or whether they're business coaches, they're really in the business of providing a service one-on-one to people and helping them achieve a better life. And that's kind of how I see business, a lot of business people.
Oh, you're muted, Cory.
So then who would you say is your ideal client?
My ideal client is going to be a health coach or a business coach who doesn't like marketing. They really do not like marketing. And part of my job is to help them spread their message and do it themselves. One of the things that ends up happening is I really help my clients understand that they are the messenger. Like, they can hire me to write a blog or build a website, but at the end of the day, we need to work with them to get them comfortable putting themselves out there and being visible.
Great.
Thank you. Yeah. And, something I've learned from Cory, and I think you would probably agree with it, James, is that the best thing we can do to kind of market ourselves is to kind of work on ourselves. And I know Cory does a lot of work of that, what I call internal work with core values and the mission and the purpose. And that's really just life-changing as a business owner. And I'd never seen anything like that before I'd met Cory. Could you just talk a little bit about kind of what the importance of that internal work is, or, first of all, what it is and what your experience is, and kind of, starting there and the benefits that provides to folks? Maybe you have a story or two as well. Oh, you're muted, James.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were asking Cory.
Yeah, I actually know Cory's response, but or some of it. I am interested in hearing, what Cory has to say on this, because I think this is such a critical point, part of the whole reason why we started Quantum Leap. So that's why. And I know I kind of packed a lot into one question there, but
so could you just repeat to me the
sure
question?
I was just curious of, this internal work about helping us connect with our ideal client. What do you see, how to get started there, and what kind of results do you see with folks who do that work?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. So first of all, just keep it simple. And that is, do you like your ideal client? Who do you like? That's what I ask. We need you to care about your clients, right? Because in order to connect with them, you need to understand them. You need to discover them. You need to know what they need, what their pain points are. And so it's super important that you really deeply care about them, because you're going to be inquisitive. It's very difficult to be inquisitive if you don't care. So I really start with, who do you care about? Who's important to you? And then we work and collaborate to discover their message and their value.
Great. I know one of the best advice pieces of advice I got when the pandemic started that I actually continue to run with was from Cory, and he said it on one of the early shows too, that the best thing we can do, especially when COVID first hit, is, try to build our network, and that's going to kind of generate clients over the long term. Is there any type of advice you would say about, people struggling during COVID with their marketing, what they should look at or what direction they might want to go? Besides get a coach, I almost think you have to have a coach that you can't, it's almost like you can't have unsolicited advice unless you get some of the foundational things from them. But
yeah. In answer to that, I would say you kind of answered the question is get a coach, but in the larger picture, it's not just a coach. It's about being present, and it's about being visible and out there. One of the things, there's so many benefits that just come from being with people, whether it's in a B&I meeting or a pod, or even at your local coffee shop or taking your walk, COVID safe neighborhood. When you get out there and you put yourself in front of people and you communicate with people, that's what happens. And the people are looking for, they say, well, I just want to build a website and have customers come to me. But the truth is, when you're connecting with people, that creates a quantum effect, if you will, nod to your brand. And that's invaluable. It's irreplaceable. And so that's one of the benefits of working with a coach, is that you do get used to talking about your business, verbalizing it, and collaborating with other people.
Great. And well, good. Cory, do you have any follow-up on that? I know we've kind of drilled down on a number of these issues over the time, and I really think there's a unique perspective that you bring that I hope that we've conveyed, and part of it, and Cory, feel free to jump in, is that really you got to kind of look at your strengths. And as small business owners, the hardest thing is that we're often the best at doing our job, but we're not good at, we don't know most of solopreneurs don't know the first thing about marketing. They don't know where to start, and you get torn in so many different directions. And I think one thing I've learned by being in Cory's platform, for example, is that don't try to do everything. Pick, one package. For example, I decided with my business to focus on referral marketing. And then I started this podcast, and I've kind of done those two things before I launched my most recent marketing program. But I think people often are so overwhelmed by all these options that they just don't do anything. So I see the real benefit of folks who work with you is that you actually kind of, evaluate all these options and you get them going with something instead of what I call being stuck in the gate. Would you kind of agree that that's a common problem about people kind of not knowing where to start?
Talking to me or to James?
Oh, to James. Yeah. And I want to get your opinion, Cory, too, because you're
I'm always opinionated. I know.
Got it. Yeah. I mean, that's, stay focused. I mean, so oftentimes I find customers or business owners have an ideal client, and they really do not want to limit themselves to that ideal client. They feel like they're losing something by focusing in on that ideal client. And we work long and hard on showing them how important it is to understand the needs of even just one person that represents your ideal client. Because it's not just when you address that person, of course, they're going to understand what you provide, and they're going to value it. But other folks that are adjacent to that person or who are similar to that person are going to respect the fact that you are an expert in that area, and they'll see how you can help them in their area. You don't actually have to convince them. You just have to convince your market that you're an expert at what you do. And so that focus is super, super important.
Yeah. And I do see Cory really, a lot of times I just talk from my own experience that which I think a lot of new business owners, myself included, we try to be all things to all people and kind of just, okay, well, I want to go after that ideal client and that ideal client. And then we ended up being so scattered and not focused. So one thing I've learned recently is that we got to pick our niches. And if Cory, would you mind just telling me about, because you have the personal, you're the one who put me through that funnel and you saw how I was struggling to do that and what the solution is.
And referral marketing, it's a little, I mean, James and I would probably have some similarities there, but in referral marketing, we would actually create a persona for a target market, right? Because in referrals, you've really got to be able to come up with a name. You know, when you're working with a marketing expert who's going to take you online, you kind of know you have a demographic that you're after, and there may be some psychographics and other things and so on, but you don't necessarily have to think of somebody because you're just going to reach out to, you know, 5, 10, 15, 100,000 people, who knows. With referral marketing, you know, it's sort of like I would want to be able to, if James were my target market, I would want somebody to think of James when I describe my target market, right? If they know him, they're going to like, that's him, or David, or something like that. And so, so we would take that down. And then, and it's the same thing as people are like, oh my God, that is so, you know, it's so narrow. How am I going to find those people? And usually you find it's like, okay, well, how many people, you know, how many people do you think are in your region who fit that target market? And it's, oh, like, you know, 5,000. And okay, so is 5,000 enough customers for you, you know? And for most people, it's probably, you know, 20 or 30 times as many as they're thinking about. And I remember some years ago, I had a territory of Oakland. That was a territory I took with the Referral Institute Incentive. And, you know, I was kind of like wanting to reach out to the larger Alameda area, you know, but technically that's out of my region. So I wasn't really technically allowed to market to it. So I went to, you know, the owner and I said, you know, I'd like to expand my region. And he says, well, there's 40,000 businesses in Oakland. Have you talked to them all yet? And so, you know, it's a tendency to want to cast a wide net because we don't feel like we're catching everything. And consistency is key. Entrepreneurs are not known for their consistency. Not all of us, some are, but it's always taking what Ivan says, which is do, you know, 6 things 1,000 times rather than 1,000 things 6 times, and just finding some sweet spot in the middle there that works for you. It's so important. And I'm, you know, as much as I keep saying that, I still find myself, you know, we're constantly ideating and coming up with new ways to reach people. And it's not necessarily a good thing for us to do, and yet we enjoy it. So it's I think there's also the enjoyability factor. We take joy in the options, and limiting those options is not fun. And yet that is where success comes from, is consistency.
Great. And I also see, you know, James's supportive nature. You guys both share that, how easy he is to work with and kind of what a good guy he is. And he also has an expertise in the online courses that we didn't get to today. I want to put the link to that prior video, James, and sorry for going off script here on some of these things. I just realized that you kind of share that awareness with Cory about how you can ask the right questions, and that people, if they are struggling with their marketing, they need to just get in touch with you, and you'll be able to pinpoint the problems and how to move forward, which is such a rare thing that I see out there in the marketing landscape.
It's a good thing to have somebody like James do the marketing for you, because people just get stuck in all the options and they keep procrastinating or, you know, doing one thing after the other. And so when you do have somebody who says, okay, once you start spending the money on it, people become much more consistent. Right? So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Let's keep at it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Great. Well, thanks, James, for coming on. And I'll put the links to your membership club for coaches and the website for the online courses. And you also have a marketing website as well. So I'll put those links, and do feel free to reach out to him to see if he'd be a good fit for you if you're a small business owner struggling with your marketing during COVID. And really, if it includes, well, what do I do for marketing during COVID? He's a great person to contact to start with. And thanks, James. And thanks, Cory, too.
Thanks, James.
Thanks, David.
Insights.
Thanks, Cory. It's good to see you guys.
Great. Bye, everyone.